Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Keatsman's at 10. We got Merrill Eisenhower coming up at 9 o'clock for our Feature Friday segment. He was just a part of the 2025 March of the Living on Holocaust Remembrance Day, so he was over there last week, so we're looking forward to having him in studio at 9. But the big news of the last hour is this jobs report coming out. 177,000 jobs added, beating the expectations of 138,000. Here's what it sounded like this morning on CNBC.
The jobs report for April hitting the wires. Non-farm payrolls, a greater 177,000. We're expecting, as Joe pointed out, 133,000. 177,000 would be the second best of the year outside of what's in the rearview mirror.
There you go. That was Rick Santelli this morning. The expectations from most people was that it would come in below the expectations. Concerns over tariffs and kind of some stalling out of the economy right now. But Mark Falter is here. Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio, Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group. Mark, what do you make of this report, my man?
Hey, I'm telling you what, there's some good numbers now. I would have lost that bet. This is why I don't go to casinos. See, yeah. I'd have lost that one. That's good. The one thing that concerns me a little bit, the real economic drag of these tariffs hasn't quite hit yet. But, it's kind of what I had been saying. It's going to be, here just a 3 weeks ago, we were looking at, holy cow, can it lose any more money in the market? 1.4 trillion in a day. And now they're doing great jobs report. Man, I'm telling you, it's going to be rocky roads for a while because we're changing things quickly, So, yeah.
Well, there's still uncertainty. There's no doubt about it. But, Mark, you and I were together yesterday. We got lunch. And one thing I said to you, and I've said this on the show this week, and you obviously know this. This is what you do. But you look at the last year, from May 2 to May 2 of this year, the S&P is up 10%. NASDAQ's up 11%. Dow's up 7%. I mean, people have got to stop freaking out over short-term headlines. That's not how any of us need to be thinking, but the media can't help itself, Mark.
No, and that's a lot of what drives it, is that the media, sells on bad news more than they do on good news. And I think the smart people are going to learn that they've got to get that to play in their favor, because the fact of the matter is people aren't going to quit doing that. They're going to react on the news of the day, and there's going to be certain people that invest accordingly. And that's kind of sort of maybe okay if you're younger, but don't do that if you're 72, and just play, get into some safe stuff, paying income. It's still out there. Yeah.
Well, the last time you and I talked, we talk on the first Friday of the month when the jobs reports typically come out. And obviously the first half of April was really rocky. And one of the things that you saw on social media was like, oh, my gosh, this guy's ruining my retirement, tariffs, everything else. It's like, first off, if you are that close or in retirement and you were just riding the equity markets, like that's on you, Mark. I said it I said it multiple times. If you weren't listening to our guy, Mark Falter, that's on you. If you were just riding the roller coaster of the equity markets the last, few months, I just have no sympathy for that. It's nonsense.
Now I'll take that a little bit of a step further. I talk to these retirees day in and day out, and sometimes it's not 100% on them. They're trusting an advisor that knows no other way other than growth. And that's fine if you're dealing with a 40, 50-year-old client. But don't do that with a 73-year-old pulling required minimum distributions out, It's just not good sense. Heck, it's an interesting thing I said to one of my advisors. He was prepping for a case the other day. He said, what should I say to him? I said, tell him about the Roll of 100. Nobody talks about that anymore. I said, that was a rule created back in the 1930s stock market crash. Take your age minus 100. That's the most you should have in the stock market. Nobody listens to that anymore. This has not changed since the 1930s.
All right, wait. What was that? What was that data point? Take your age.
Take your age minus 100. Like in my case, I'm 60. 40% is the most I should have in the market, and or something market related, and then have the other stuff into income generating safe stuff. The main thing is because, I use a little analogy. I like buying antique guns. I just do. And they're kind of expensive, and you ride a market, but they're really pretty to look at. Now, if somebody said to me, hey, buy this antique gun and you have to sell it in 3 months, there ain't no freaking way I'd buy that thing. But if you hold it 10, 15 years, that thing's going to be worth more money. They're not going to make any more of that particular Colt, And it's the same thing with the stock market. If you got to sell quick, you shouldn't be in it. The market never promised you every year it was going to make money, or even every 10 years it was going to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at like over the 10-year period of 2000 to 2010, that was not a good 10-year period. But when you look at the 90-year, 100-year track back and the S&P is averaging, 10% return, the data, the historical data is there to feel good about this stuff over the long haul.
Yeah, over the long haul.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that irritates me a little bit. As I said, I talked to people, and they said, well, my advisor says I'm not going to run out of money. I said, well, does he know exactly how many market dips there's going to be between now and then, exactly how big they're going to go? And, the biggest thing is, as a retiree, here is what changes. If you really want to get right down to it, the real big change is you're doing something different with the instrument that got you where you're at. It would get you there if you wouldn't do this change. The change you made is give me the same thing, and I'd like to take money out instead of put money in. Well, I can't do that way. You change the whole bet now,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mark Falter is here, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9, Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group here in Kansas City. All right, so you mentioned earlier that maybe some of these tariffs have not been quite priced in at this point in time. But, and also the federal jobs cuts. I was looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics website this morning, and most months during the prior administration, government jobs were one of the biggest additives to the market. For this report, federal jobs were down 9,000. So they were a negative in the jobs numbers. To me, if we're exceeding expectations and we're losing government jobs, that is a good sign for the economy, short-term and long-term. What's your assessment of that?
Yeah, the only thing you got to remember now, and that's something my analyst reminds me of often, and that is what is it? It's some ratio. He keeps track of he says for every one government job you lose a certain amount of civilian jobs with it, and it's like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio, and there's the issue. I do think in some ways you need a smaller government, and I think that we're going to be in rocky roads for a little while, but I think ultimately this is going to be a great plan. I just don't think we need to be doing this in 3.5, 4 years. Let's put it that way.
Isn't this
with these tariffs?
Isn't this also? Isn't that a sign right there? Like, if the private sector is that reliant on the public sector creating jobs, we have to hit the reset button like ASAP. I don't know. And then if we lose 9,000 federal jobs in April, and we still turned out blowing out the expectations. That's a good sign to me as well. Yeah.
You got smaller government, and that's kind of always a good thing. I think ultimately, and this is the thing, I don't quite know why Trump doesn't lead with this all the time. What he's trying to do here is get that $36 trillion deficit and hold it at bay without raising our taxes. I don't think that the average retiree, or even the average person for that matter, the retirees get a little bit bigger standard deduction than the younger people, but I don't think they realize the magnitude of losing that standard deduction. It took people from 50% of the people itemized to 6% or something like that, some really small number. And nobody itemizes anymore.
No.
You lose that, you're going to be back to not paying a higher tax. Even if the tax brackets don't go up, you'll be paying a higher tax because you can't deduct as much. And that's not good.
No, you're right about that. I mean, no one itemizes anymore for the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, the standard deduction is so enormous now. So what do you think, and then this second quarter is going to look like? Are you expecting more of the turbulence until the tariff thing settles down, we get some announcements, and then if we get a tax bill in this quarter or the extension of the 2017 tax bill along with some tariff announcements, we could be off to the races?
Yeah, now if he comes through with a definite, we have extended those 2017 tax codes, that's going to really be a good thing. That's going to be a really good thing. But I think we're going to see some turbulence for the next 6 months for sure. I don't think this year is going to be I just count on it. You know what it's going to do, and it's going to constantly grow. It's going to be up and down. It's going to scare people. And like I said, hey, that actually is a good market for the certain type of person. It's just not the 74-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, if you're approaching that retirement number, I mean, now's the time to kind of hit the reset button, so to speak.
Right. Yes,
Good
sir.
deal. Good deal. Well, Mark, we appreciate you, my man. We'll be listening tomorrow morning at 9, and keep up the great work. Thanks so much.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
There you go. Mark Falter, Retirement Income Hour, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9, and then Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group here in Kansas City.